We're the Sydney University team. I'm Beck, this is Abby, and our other team members are Katie and Leah.
So, it's a jungle out there in terms of data and financial services. So we will be walking you through the behavioural problems and solutions from the perspective of Nathan Nudge, our average consumer. This is Nathan. There are two problems he faces. He isn't taking advantage of comparison services that could find offers that may be better for him, and he isn't properly consenting to their use of his data. In his current context, Nathan feels overwhelmed, and you can see why, with the walls of text, complicated privacy settings, and various choices he faces.
Step 1 for simplifying Nathan's choices is sharing his data with the comparison services. Here, he encounters a number of behavioural biases that distort his decision-making, and whether these biases are encouraging him to accept or decline these terms and conditions, they're definitely altering his true wishes. Information overload and both the ambiguity effect and the ostrich effect influence him. One way to overcome the information overload that Nathan experiences is to present a table of 3 levels of security that a customer can agree to. Each level grants different degrees of access to the customer's data. Option A is the most secure option, while option C allows the company to use and collect the customer's data and more of this data. The use of ticks and crosses saliently indicate the terms and conditions they face under each group. Another way to overcome information overload is to have a link to frequently asked questions. These are presented in a clean and easy way to understand. These squares are colour-coded to categorise the type of concern raised. For example, green squares represent payment-related information, and red represents refunds. These boxes can be clicked on for additional information. Also, after choosing one of the 3 levels of security, Nathan is prompted to a quiz that asks 5 yes or no questions. The customer is notified that the quiz will take less than a minute and that it's only there to ensure that they understand what they have consented to. If customers choose the incorrect answer, this is made obvious to them with a red incorrect message, and they are provided with the correct answer. Another problem for Nathan is suffering from either ambiguity aversion or the ostrich effect. With sharing data comes the risk of many possible privacy-related threats, the probabilities of which are unknown to consumers. People are likely to be averse to such uncertainties and reluctant to share their data. Alternatively, the ostrich effect can occur. It's named after the fabled tendency of ostriches to bury their heads in the sand, and similarly, many people may just close their eyes to privacy risks when sharing their data. Any combination of these 2 behavioural problems distort individuals' consent, but luckily one solution helps with both problems. A government-provided acronym would be able to be used only by services that meet certain basic requirements of independence and security. Use of the term SID, or Secure Independent Data, would be regulated in a similar manner to the French government's strict regulation of the word champagne, as sparkling wine can only be called this if it comes from the Champagne region in France. The purpose of this acronym is to accredit certain comparison services as being credible, and that's when you first click on the website, whereas the lock diagram displayed changes depending on which security option you select, much like how the password strength can change from weak to strong as you change your password. This creates trust in these services and can serve to improve consumer certainty in relation to privacy security. Now, Nathan has made a choice about sharing or not sharing his data that accurately reflects his wishes. So all of Nathan's biases have been counteracted, and he will switch credit cards based on the comparison service? Not quite.
As a comparison service, we have to overcome 2 behavioural biases that he's currently subjected to that dissuade him from switching. These are choice overload and loss aversion. Choice overload occurs as people become overwhelmed by a larger choice set and may avoid making a choice altogether. Individuals who already have a credit card can become confused if they try to shop around for other credit cards, and so just settle on the one they already have as an option that doesn't quite require a choice. The problem with this, your current credit card is a choice, and likely a bad one. We use a contrast effect, which allows the perceived differences between your current credit card and your ideal card to be enhanced. Now that Nathan has given us his data, we analyse the past 12 months of data and get him to enter his preferences of the features he'd like in a credit card using the tick box option shown on the slide. The presentation of the selection as a choice between only 2 items removes this choice overload. However, if consumers want to explore more options, they have a choice to do so. Another bias that Nathan is subjected to that is discouraging him from switching is loss aversion. Customers focus on the possibility of a new service mishandling their data and finances more than they focus on the financial benefits they could receive. We solve this by calculating how much they will save in the future based on current spending patterns and make this a salient point in the comparison results. Additionally, we can include how much the consumer would have saved over the past 12 months if they had switched earlier, which would also serve to alleviate any consumer uncertainty about the service's benefits. This will invoke an aversion to a different and more tangible type of loss. Nathan is convinced that this is great stuff, but switching is still an effort for him. Now we're getting into the future direction that comparison sites could move in, which involves the service doing the switching for you. This addresses a present bias. Nathan may be convinced that switching is in his best interest, but he does not want to give up the required time and effort now in exchange for a benefit that could be reaped in the future. We take away all time and effort-related barriers to switching. When the switching service finds a new switch option for Nathan, he will be prompted to a notification to log on to the switching service and review the proposed product that he can be switched to. The payment scheme for this switching service could be such that it takes a set percentage of what Nathan ends up saving over the next year with his new financial product. This maintains both the third party and the consumer interests. Also, when Nathan gets a statement at the end of the month, the statement could show how much Nathan has saved over that month relative to his old financial product, as well as the fee charged by the third party. This transparency takes away any uncertainty and can reinforce the positives of Nathan's decision.
To recap, our 2 problems were the following. Firstly, Nathan isn't taking advantage of comparison services that could find offers that may be better for him. And secondly, Nathan isn't properly consenting to the use of his data. There are various cognitive biases contributing to these issues. When it comes to data security, we combat the ambiguity and uncertainty by introducing clear terms and conditions, government ratings for website security, and a quick quiz to ensure that people understand what they're consenting to. When it comes to Nathan taking advantage of comparison services by using his data, we combat information overload by presenting him with one clear option. We combat loss aversion by showing him how much he can save with his new card. And we combat present bias by having the service do the switching between financial products for Nathan. Now, Nathan doesn't have to navigate the confusagopoly that the banks have created.
Thank you. Question? Sorry. That's all right. One more.
Just a quick one. So in terms of the accreditation process, how is that going to be funded? Presumably you need to have money to monitor. Thank you.
Presumably you need to have money for the government to actually engage in the monitoring necessary to accredit, and there's to be applications by the site to do this. How is that going to be sustainable?
So we think that it would be required for the government to spend money on that in their budget, but we think that since the potential downsides in terms of unsecure sites getting people's data are so large, we think it's in the government's best interest to make a relatively small upfront cost in their budget in order to ensure that this is a successful market change in terms of credit cards and financial services.
And just from a market perspective, it is a worthy investment because if something like this is successful, then it has those general equilibrium effects of keeping prices competitive for consumers. So it is a worthwhile funding for the government.
With the accreditation, is that an accreditation? I think it sounded like it was an accreditation both of the privacy safeguards that the site has in place, but also of its independence and how it does the calculation. So government's, in a sense, endorsing the answer that comes out of the system.
Yeah, so we envisage that because the internet is relatively hard to regulate, even though the government may try, there may be other sites that pop up that are potentially dodgy. So we see it as a general basic requirements that are met in both areas so people can have some degree of trust that this is not a site that is going to steal their data or do something particularly dodgy with it. Yeah,
Thanks,
So-
Scott.